Greetings everyone and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we will be talking about the surprising move by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas where they cut key interest rates. This is quite unprecedented simply because, as we talked from our last video, the BSP is telling us that they have more confidence about the economic outlook of the Philippines, where there's little likelihood of further easing measures. But now, it seems they are painting a different picture. But before we're going to proceed with this video, I want you to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, share this to your friends and family if you like this content. Do note though that this is just for educational purposes only and not a source of advice. And with that said, I'm Shama, providing you some news and updates and bringing you some insights on what they mean. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas last Thursday had surprised us with their interest rate cut by 0.25%. It says here that the Monetary Board's decision to cut the interest rate on the BSP's overnight reverse repurchase facility by 25 basis points brought the key rate to 2% effective on Friday, November 20. Interest rates on overnight deposit were reduced to 1.5% and lending facilities to 2.5%. Do note though that overnight rates are the rates at which banks lend funds to each other, while lending facilities are rates at which the central bank lends to financial institutions like banks and brokers. Although we see a lower rate here, but this is not the same rate as we see for business loans, personal loans, and other product loans. Each has their own lending market. But the overall scenario is that we will see a drop in all of these lending markets. But why the sudden cut? There are key possible factors involved in this decision. And one of them is due to the resurgence of COVID-19 cases, as we see here. And this is more pronounced in most Western areas like the US, UK, Italy, France, Spain. And with this resurgence of COVID cases, there's a possible lockdown in those areas. And some have already did, like France and Germany and England too. And like any other lockdowns, this will hamper the global economy. Another possible factor in the BSP's decision is the climate calamity that was done by Typhoon Ulysses. A lot of livelihoods were destroyed and all supply from these areas will be in shortage for the short run. So in order to ease them back to recovery, the BSP has to incite more liquidity into the market. Aside from climate catastrophe, the BSP possibly made their decision due to global interest rate cuts. Overall, as we can see here, most major central banks around the world have their key interest rates close to zero. Though there are some with relatively high interest rate, but when combined with inflation, that real interest rate is close to zero or negative. Do note though that the key difference between nominal interest rate and real interest rate is that nominal interest rate is the interest rate that we see on papers, but the real interest rates are adjusted for inflation, which is the number that we should focus on. Anyways, moving back to the discussion. So why would the BSP have to follow with the rest of the world? Well, there are two sides of that story. Keeping interest rates high compared with the rest of the world will make us look good in the eyes of the investor. Foreign direct investment comes in, our currency appreciates since they have to buy our currency in order to invest in our country. However, this hurts our OFWs because they will have less pesos in exchange for their dollar. If you want an in-depth analysis on how that works, you may watch up here. As a result, remittance inflow will be low and can greatly affect our consumption habits, especially this coming holiday season. And I don't think the BSP wants to see that. Besides, at this time around, the FDIs is more concerned about the overall economic health of the country over the comparative interest rate that they will get. Lastly, the other possible factor in the BSP's decision is the lackluster in the market movement. There's still a grim sentiment in most market players, And the BSP wants to change that by re-incentivizing the economy through liquidity by rate cut. Why rate cut? As mentioned from our last videos, the BSP can also cut required reserves if they deem the market is not yet recovering. So why didn't they do that? Or why not both? Good question. This has to do with the money multiplier effect and the risk involved in the central bank's move. The multiplier effect is basically, using Google as a reference, a phenomenon whereby a given change in a particular input, such as monetary easing, causes a larger change in an output, such as gross domestic product. It is possible that there is greater effect in the overall economy if interest rates are changed compared to required reserve change. Other than that, the risk involved, in my opinion, in changing the required reserve is greater than the risk involved in changing the interest rate. But the point here is that the consequence of decreasing the required reserve is the possible non-payment of the bank to all those deposits when there's a sudden massive panic withdrawal. And this is a risk that we really don't want to see, especially this time around. Okay, we're reaching at the end point of this video, but what I can tell here is that we might see further easing measures by the BSP, especially if the GDP, inflation, unemployment rate are showing lackluster results. So, should we worry at all if they keep doing these monetary easing measures? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for sticking with me and have a nice day.